Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsey, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. My guest on Talk Design today is Phillip Johnson. Now, Phillip Johnson is a landscape architect of world renown, and we're lucky enough to have him in Australia. He is crazily passionate about the landscape and what horticulture can do with landscape design, from natural pools to big accolades, things like the Chelsea Flower Show, where an overall winner unanimously voted, and the projects and the energy and the drive that he brings to it, which is for the betterment of our environment, but also for the betterment of our people that live in this environment, and how we get those things to happen. I am lucky enough to be collaborating with Phil on a project and just being firsthand attached to his energy, which is brilliant. Phil, welcome to Talk Design. I'm so excited to have you here and sharing some of your projects, but also sharing that passion and the reason why.
I can't wait. Great to be here. And yeah, I love your energy too, Adrian.
Yeah, mate, it's fun. It's like putting two hyperactive children in the same room and saying, okay, what are you guys going to do?
Absolutely.
I want to start out with, you were this little kid living in Aussie, and for some reason you decided that plants and landscape was your jam. What happened? Like, did you grow up in an environment? Give me right from being really little to when your first awareness came.
From a young age, I love being outdoors. Okay. Struggled academic, ADHD, which is bloody hyper focused with great attributes. Brilliant. Yep. Didn't know that when I was a little kid. School was extremely hard. Extremely hard. I'll tell you. It was,
for them and you.
I didn't get it, man. I love creativity, but I just didn't get so much. Wasn't taught in the right way to connect with me. What I connected with was the outdoors, hands-on, practical, building things, bushwalking. First thing I really felt like really passionate about and really good and hyper focused was rock climbing. Actually connecting with rock and earth and then starting to believe in myself with that. Same time, I loved the garden. I loved the garden with my dad outside. My grandparents at a young age, I think if you look at everyone's parents, grandparents, everyone loved the garden. And where's that gone now? And
in a car, I reckon.
Yeah.
In a car, it's driven away. It's there's too much other entertainment instead of hands in the soil.
And it's just too easy to buy that produce there. I know it's a bit of work to sometimes grow it, but hey, it's rewarding when you get your own corn. So my grandparents were right into gardening. My dad was right into gardening. I love rock climbing. I love the outdoors. I used to dig holes, make forts. My gran, she was just such a beautiful energy. My dad's mum, she lived about 10 minutes out of Melbourne, CBD, a California bungalow.
Right.
Front of the garden was very English. Okay. I had this juxtaposition with my dad in England. Okay. We'll come to that later. He thinks he's English. And he had to go to Chelsea to prove that one. About Australian gardens, the beauty of plants from our country. And my gran's place, I used to walk down the sideway. It's a little shady kind of side of the house. Not many things grew, but ferns grew beautifully. Wow. She probably illegally collected shell grit from a local nearby beach, which was the pathway. Beautiful on foot, felt fantastic. And my imagination there, like seeing these ferns, and don't freak out when I say fairies, but at a young age, I believed in fairies. she used to leave these little treats in the ferns, like little lollies and things, and it was just a wonderful imagination of the beauty of tree ferns in this like kind of cool space in suburbia.
But
Uh,
that imagination part is the spark of everything. And look, the fairy thing, I go, you say don't freak out about it. I go,
yeah.
it's actually this imagination of worlds beyond the worlds we're in. And whether they're big worlds, little worlds, whatever, we still have it. There's all these kids playing bloody Minecraft. We still have this alternative imagination that does it. As I lived in France for a while, just back around the GFC, so 2008, 2009. And my daughter, her name's Paris, she was named after the city. She was living, my wife and her, we were the three of us were the three musketeers in France. And I was working, doing innovation work. While I was doing this, I had a lot of time when we would just be, at home. And with that, we went and lived a place near Toulouse, down near the bottom of the Pyrenees. We lived in this little place down there for a while, and it had these amazing kind of wilderness gardeny kind of pieces. They were somewhat curated, but just wild. Yeah. And we created fairy trails with her, and then Becky, my wife, would leave fairy items like sticks placed in a certain way and rocks placed in a certain way, so that she would, as a 5-year-old, go and rediscover them. And to this day, she talks about that, and she has this real connection with that, not the fairyland piece, but with the adventure and the discovery and the imagination. I think it's like beyond valid.
And
We
as a
all did it.
landscape designer, landscape architect, you're creating these experiences through the landscape.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need a fairy garden, but I'm saying the
Wouldn't do any harm.
magic. I think we probably all need a bit more of a fairy garden.
Yeah.
The magic, the energy that can be created in a space.
Yeah.
But that connected, that little fernery connected me to tree ferns. I then bought this amazing property just about an hour out of Melbourne, which was this mountain ash forest. It's like your California redwoods.
Right.
So, height of these trees, the biggest trees in the world, biggest flowering plants in the world, because it's not a conifer, it's different. It's a Eucalyptus regnans, and I had tree ferns everywhere. So that kind of experience led me to find my first property to build and protect and conserve this amazing parcel of land too. So interesting there. Her backyard was produce, all produce garden.
Right.
Like everything, tomatoes, everything, sandy loam soil. And we talk about sustainable design and making sure you got some produce and all these elements. But you look back in the generations, how they used to conserve water, protect water, reuse, repurpose water, all these things. So that was really important time there. But back to the climbing, that was the thing that really allowed me to believe in myself.
Yeah.
Struggled at school, but climbing really good and hyper focused. And that just my drive to be the best in Australia.
Yep.
Drive to just push myself to another level. Yes, my hands are feeling it now a little bit, but that determination then linked to my now professional career drove me to push sustainable design, to challenge my father, who thinks he's still English, challenge my dad how important plants from our country are, not having to replicate and alter and manipulate our landscape to look like England.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to go to London to kind of
prove it to him. Yeah.
Oh, wow. These Australian plants are quite beautiful. Now he's got a few kangaroo paw and all these things that in his garden now. Interesting journey. That can probably come back to the Chelsea.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
When I finished my degree, I studied the University of Melbourne. I did a degree in applied science.
Yep.
I came from an artistic background, going to do a science degree. Whoa, that was full on. Had the design element. And then I started studying landscape design. Then I had the design element come through in the creativity, which just drove me to another level, which was fantastic. Back to my rock climbing days, looking at.
Do you think Do you think the ADHD and the rock climbing, so I'm ADHD as well,
That's why we get
fancy that,
that one.
but it
Brilliant.
allows a couple
All
of things. When you have to hyper focus, you really hyper focus, and whereas we can be horribly distracted other times, we can, I wouldn't say multitask, but we can grab things from obscure spots and bring them into this one sort of piece. But with rock climbing, it it's a do or die, kind of outcome.
Yeah,
Not necessarily die, but
you're on
you
a
hurt
cliff.
yourself seriously if you don't
You're
die.
on a cliff.
Yeah,
You're 100 meters, 200 meters up. We're not
yeah,
talking, we're talking rock climbing, lead climbing.
yeah,
I did a lot of instructing
yeah,
too.
right.
And that's another point of that, seeing young kids come away either bushwalking or rock climbing
Yeah.
or the journey to the cliff for 5 days, 10 days away, how they kind of evolve as young men and women
Mhm.
to learn a lot about themselves, their endurance, believing in themselves, getting away from the noise of
Taking the risk.
taking
Yeah,
the risk, taking the serious risk, but it's calculated, of course,
yeah.
and seeing them in nature.
Mhm.
That's what drove me then to develop further with my work. Now designing these landscapes that connect every single person back to nature in an urban, sometimes a rural, sometimes a rooftop.
Hell,
Uh,
mate, you've got me putting rocks inside the house.
I
Like,
know,
so,
the touchstone, the energy of a rock,
yeah,
next level.
yeah. I know. And look, I was talking with somebody just the other day, and we were talking about, something with architecture, and there was this comment about, they said, yeah, imagine if you brought a rock into the house. And I'm like, I can. And I was kind of just being a bit flippant. And then I said, well, think of Frank Lloyd Wright and falling water and the big rock that they used to sit on as forms part of the fireplace. And I said, and that takes me to Phillip Johnson saying to me, Adrian, I'd like you to bring my landscape into the house you're working on. Can we put a rock through into the library, please? And I'm like, sure, Phil. Why wouldn't we? But yeah, up until that point, I was, playing with rammed earth and all those pieces, but I wasn't actually going to bring a rock indoors. And then I'm like, Adrian, just wake up and see what you're offering with it.
You've got
And
to find the right piece.
yeah,
That's a journey too, and a
yeah,
great journey for the client too, to try to find the right piece of stone that connects.
yep, into all the landscape and the home. So you did your applied sciences, and you
And
came out of that, and then you were already well indoctrinated into, the gardening side of things from growing up with your grandparents and things. So you had a good understanding of that. There's a whole lot difference between gardening and creating landscapes. What was the transition from going applied sciences to, nightmare child at school?
I was really good
But
at school. I just didn't get it.
right. Oh,
I was
okay.
restless. I just had the EBGBs all the time. Oh, I'm restless. Oh, just not. I
Just
just didn't
couldn't
get it.
sit still with it,
Just
but you were
didn't get
good
it.
at it. Right.
No, no, not good at it.
No, not.
Just stayed quiet. I was just like kind of probably shut down. Probably
Yeah, right.
the climbing and outdoors like kind of germinated, man. I mean, this
So
seed, mate,
how come you
big time.
just didn't end up a climbing instructor for the rest of your life?
Because that at the time was my kind of like switch off. That was my
Right. It took all your
and
focus. It's like motor racing or something.
I just didn't need to be doing that all the time every day. But now what I love to do now in my spare time is actually garden. So I
Yeah,
love my job to the next level. Yes, of course it's hard at times, as we know.
of course,
But
it's work. Yeah.
how that transition occurred. So after my degree, and I'd been building, so this is the thing too, with design and construction. So
Yes.
we're landscape architects, landscape designers, horticulturists, and we build. I think that has been the success next level for our company. We employed over 20 something staff, men and women, all diverses,
Yeah.
all different cultures too. It's an amazing team of people. And after my degree, I went and asked to go teach environmental ed over in the Catskills.
Yeah,
for
right. Over by New York.
Yeah, upstate New York, where the catchment of all the water for New York City came. That's
Mhm.
just around the Gulf War type, the first, I think it was. And it's like to see the security around that water supply. Well, that's a bit fun. Why is that? Because that's where we're in the catchment, we're in the watershed of where all the water for New York City comes. Ooh, water collection, water catchment, how we can collect water. And this one day, and I had the best time teaching that. People said, "Oh, you're the Steve Irwin." Like, have you seen this guy, Steve Irwin? I said, "No, I haven't." And this is like a long time ago
Has he
now.
seen me?
I wish I built him a billabong. Then this one afternoon, sitting by a waterfall, I had an epiphany. And I was checking this waterfall with a mate. He was probably playing some cool music. We're having a beautiful Samuel Adams beer. And of
Mhm.
course, we moved it, took it home, the bottle, and we're
Yep.
just in that moment connecting. And I just said, I want to build these things. I want to build waterfalls. I want to build creeks and streams and waterways.
Yeah, right.
Being in the catchment and that watershed, that's where the water comes from. So how can we capture water in a really innovative, sustainable way, like we're
Mm.
doing one of our projects,
Mm.
collect millions of liters of water off the roof collection, and how we can utilize and design that water storage and water use into the whole system of the landscape and architecture.
I
So,
love it.
was right going. Then I kept on building. No, not Frank Lloyd Wright. I'll come to that. I was then got back and I started building more landscapes, designing more landscapes, and the trend was English gardens.
Yeah,
Then we went
yeah.
to kind of clip box hedging, a lot of clip formal kind of landscapes,
Mhm.
and I had some amazing lecturers that talked about ecology, repairing the lands, promoting Australian plants, and remember, I'm going to talk a lot of Australia, but
Yes,
this model is applicable anywhere around the world.
every environment. Yep,
We're talking LA, we're talking
yep,
upstate New York, we're
yep.
talking over in Europe and the UK. It's applicable anywhere. You work with the plants from your country. You design sustainable lands by collecting water in a sustainable way, which I'll talk later, I'm sure.
Mm.
But uh, I then kept going, and I had to like kind of build like a portfolio to show, oh, see this? I want a rose garden. I want a beautiful rose garden to look like England. But really, let's think about it. We're in a really dry continent here, aren't we, Adrian? And it's
Yeah,
been
it's
we're
a
going another drought for another 7 years, and we need to design
yeah. We
this as
don't have a drought for like a couple of months. We have
one.
droughts for
We're talking
7 and 10 years.
7 years.
Yes.
And with climate change, it's going to get way worse.
Yeah.
We're at the next level, and we know what's
And we're
happening.
living in a in an environment where we are very low on water in some spaces, but for the main part, and then we are really extreme in others. But those two are nowhere near each other, like it's not like one's touching the other, from the Daintree to, the desert. Yeah, they're such diverse environments.
So we had to design environments, Adrian, that inspired people. Oh, wow, I could have this. Wow, cool. And then I had another one. Oh, you can have this. This is beautiful. These water features, which I call a billabong. The concept of a billabong is
I was going to say, please expand that for the
so.
Americans.
A billabong is a great thing. You can't have one. Basically, a billabong is like it's a body of water that occurs along a waterway, like a lagoon.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got a river that floods and it fills up another like water feature off to the side, like a lagoon or a wetland, and in flood water. It
Yeah.
has rich, diverse seeds, really rich in biodiversity, and then the floods subside. That water stays there for some time, but then it fluctuates seasonally. So then it
Yeah.
drops down based on rainfall.
Yeah.
We do in our landscapes. We're collecting water off our driveway, off the roof. We're capturing all that roof water into massive rainwater tanks,
Yep.
completely independent water supply. Let's go LA, independent water supply.
Yep.
If you have the independent 500,000 or 1,000,000 liters or 4 million gallons of water available that you've collected in a sustainable way off your property, you've got an independent available
Water supply.
supply.
Yeah.
And we're in a very vulnerable spot here in Australia.
Mhm.
I'm extreme fire danger area, and it's a cycle. We get it in the drought, every 7 years or 10, 13 years, we get a cycle of major fire events occurring,
Mhm.
usually at the end of a drought when it's just timber box, but we've had strange season this year, and our state is burning in multiple different areas at the moment.
Yep. But look, we seem to follow almost like a fire ring that happens with America as well, like not usually at the same time, but very closely related. We will, I've been in Australia for 24 years. And even prior to that, so Kiwi, Australia would be burning sometimes, and we would have smoke in New Zealand from Australia's fires, and it just catastrophic fires, like what's just happened in Los Angeles, and like what happens in Canada and places like that.
And that's winter.
Yeah, I know.
It's when we're currently burning in summer here.
Yeah.
It's extreme conditions, and it's going to get worse. And that's where we need to be really smart in design as architecture with like our fire ratings with Australia, with designing to certain building codes, don't we?
But we can't ignore the fact that we're building in a landscape. Like, we're not disconnected from the land. The houses sit on that stuff. Like with it being connected to it, I look at it this way, whether it be an urban block or whether it be a greater block, we have the opportunity to influence the boundary on the borders right out to the edges of that block. Now, if that's farmland, yep, there'll be, all kinds of different natural habitats on it and all the rest. As it gets more urban and tighter, and it brings me to thinking of a Olsen Kundig project in Seattle, where you would actually think that you're in a park. When I say in a park, in a natural wilderness type park in the middle of the city, with a home that they did there, and it's in an urban block, but it's completely separates itself from the environment around it, being other houses. So with this, we get to influence what we are physically allowed to own or have bought to own. Our design starts in the greater climate beyond that, the bigger environment. So like take Australia, Victoria, which region, which piece, right down to the left side of a hill, like as if we were growing grapes, the soil, what the rock base is like, whether we're going to grow a Pinot or a Cab Sav, or what are we going to grow? What is that? That's all part of what we get. And then we get a piece of that we can influence, but we need to understand it from that level to even talk about what architecture should be on it. But then beyond the architecture, everything that isn't our built structure is something that is the landscape structure.
Definitely. And
they're not separate.
And we're the custodians of these properties or this parcel of land.
Yeah.
And that's why I try to go on a great journey. And the project we're working on, it's amazing at the moment. Yep. What we're working on, of actually the clients of the custodian, to do the best practice around their residents and further out of their property as well, for future generations, and to repair the land. We've manipulated and altered the landscape to another level. Yeah, like a lot of the sites we visit, and the opportunity of transforming it and repairing it,
restoring and repairing and transforming all in one,
and then having like basically a monoculture of, say, large areas of lawn that we sometimes come to as just cleared areas, and then we've brought back and created this beautiful habitat. That brings you birds and bees and butterflies, creates the energy, creates the spirit of the landscape, creates the different seasonal change, not just spring, it's different seasons. The landscape evolves, but we can also design that in a way that actually can be protected from fire.
Yeah, here we go.
ways of how we treat landscape treatment around a residence.
Yeah.
As sometimes we have a garden bed near a house. What do we do? What's the surface? What's the finished surface? I think from an architectural and link of landscape, a kind of rocky mulch, a gravelly surface looks fantastic, sets off, like, so the Rammed Earth project we're working on, sets that off beautifully. It creates this really great Zen space around, but sparse plantings. But if embers come in, hits that rock mulch, non-combustible. You have normal leafy organic mulch, it's combustible. It burns. It burns a meter high for 30 seconds and it goes out. but then it goes out. But if you can have an area around your inner ring, like that 10 meters, that's non-combustible or further, it's a great way of setting up.
It's time to protect our environment,
Yeah,
or to protect
spaces.
our built structures and the people that are in them and how they're inhabited. Before we jump into that
I had to go back
piece
to
of
Frank
it.
Lloyd Wright. So that's
Oh, go on. You go back to Frank Lloyd Wright.
I wanted to go to Frank Lloyd Wright when you talked about Frank Lloyd Wright. I'm going to share my screen. Okay.
Yep, cool. That would be wonderful. Before you do, just anybody who's listening and wants to have a look on YouTube, obviously you can go and watch this episode on YouTube. The background that Phil has up currently is actually, there's a big story to it. So before you do, tell the story of the background that you have that you're seated against, because it's mind-blowing. I've had the pleasure of being there. It is something that you can see it over his shoulders on both sides of it. So if you come onto YouTube, have a look. Phil, take us through that background first and then share your screen on some other stuff.
So back in
and the story of getting there, yeah.
Okay. Back in 2013, I was asked to represent Australia over in London at the centenary year of the Chelsea Flower Show, which is regarded as the most prestigious garden show, landscape show in the world. Basically, it's massive, absolutely massive. And I stepped away from my business for 2 years. We're not getting paid for this, okay? So this is a voluntary passion of mine to try to inspire and connect
just
people.
A little bit passionate, yeah.
To nature. And I then went on a journey. Yes, there's some funds there through Flemings that have been going to Chelsea from Australia for some time. Never got the top award. And it was the last time Australia heading over there. And our goal was to get the top award, best in show, determination, rock climbing, dyslexia, ADHD.
We're not just going for the sake of going, guys.
I'm not going there. And we're a design and build company. Okay. So I then think, what can we do? Let's look at all my work over the last 25 years or 20 years at that time, all the beautiful, amazing things that have worked. Let's bring stepping stones. Let's bring some beautiful garden bed shapes. Let's build a billabong, but let's make that billabong actually a chemical-free swimming pool. Let's build an Australian-inspired gorge on the edge of the Thames. So this is Chelsea Flower Show, just on the edge of the Thames. And back when I was a kid, we lived in London, hence my dad thinks he's English, and we used to go along the Thames on the back of the bike on the way to preschool. And I used to freak out by the tidal change, fluctuation of water. And like I would have driven on the other side there years ago. Now, 40 years, 30 years later, I'm building an Australian gorge on this other side of the world with a team of amazing 17 volunteers. So we built this, we brought rock in from Scotland in a sustainable way that we source rocks from like landslips that we found from a depot. We jigsawed all that together. I did a mock build, surveyed every single rock, about 400 ton of rock. So we could actually put it together. I can still put it together in my eyes place, like see the top left-hand side on water level. And then we started building it 5 months later in London, 17-day build.
17 days.
We worked with this extraordinary architect, Dylan Brady from Decibel Architecture, where my brief to him was, how can we get the Queen to come to the landscape? What could we design to bring Her Majesty to the garden? Because it wasn't guaranteed that she would actually visit our landscape, our show garden. So I said to Dylan, I talked about this flower, this story, because my mum then lived in London many years ago before they got married. And my dad was writing love letters to them, each other over a 12-month period. And he met her at the airport with a bunch of these flowers called a warrata. It's an extraordinary flower from Australia. Check it out. Google it, the warrata. And then I said to Dylan, let's look at this geometry. What can we do with this flower? And this guy is just like yourself, just extraordinary person to work with. And he just then said, then he just looked at the geometry of this flower. And then we talked further back to the Queen. My dad is an artist. He taught me a lot of...
A fine artist. A painter.
painter.
Yeah.
He taught me drawing. I used to draw my plants. I used to ID plants by hand drawing with pencil. But he taught me life drawing. Yes, that was at school. That wasn't a bit weird, slightly weird, but
Stalkerish. My dad
um,
was a fine artist as well, so I
well,
understand.
okay.
Yeah.
So there's the design element come
Yeah.
through, and creativity and visualization, and within a head, there's 7 eyes to the proportion of everyone's
Mhm.
head. So then I subtracted a few eyes from the top of the Queen's head height to determine her eye line height at 5'3", depending on the shoes she wears. So
Right.
I forward that on to Dylan and his team, and then they created this most amazing sculpture, which was a design studio called the Waratah Studio. That's in the center at 5'3", at the Queen's eye height. The whole landscape would be opened up. All these petals were basically aligned at a perfect point that you get an uninterrupted view around the whole space. You can see that just behind me somewhere there.
I've experienced it. Yep, it's
It's just
amazing.
amazing. Prince Harry went up there. All like I had a
Yeah.
45 minute with Prince Harry. He said, "Call me Harry." Amazing guy, and he wanted to know everything about the project. Her Majesty, a couple of days later, comes to the garden. She has to say what she thinks of the quality of the shows. We've got judges, advisors, then judges. There's like full on. And we're competing at the centenary year against the best and the best. Like we're talking the English, the horticulturists, the landscape architects, extraordinary. And I had to stop looking at the competition because I was looking, there's a ruined village, 1440. Oh my God, it looks like it's been there forever. And
Yeah,
I
right.
stay hyper focused with my project. But the little that I realized, people thought saw 400 ton of rock coming in, building on an embankment on a slope, because I live on a slope. I love a slope. And so we jigsawed and built it all. Her Majesty came in. She heard the sound of frogs playing.
Yeah, wow.
And she said, "Philip, what's the story of these frogs I hear?" And I actually got down on my knee and I said, "Your Majesty, one late night in my garden, I recorded the sounds of the frogs, because that's the ultimate
It's a
byproduct
billabong.
of creating a sustainable landscape. You add back biodiversity, frogs return because you've got a habitat. You created a habitat. So we created this beautiful environment. Her Majesty comes, and she said, "You sound like a dear friend of mine, Sir David Attenborough." And I thought, wow, that's honor here.
Keep good company, ma'am.
I love to meet the guy. Can I build him a billabong? Then she walks into the landscape, up a few steps, built to code, 190 rise, rock steps, beautifully executed by our stonemason, David Long. And the lady in charge, steps in and said, "Your Majesty, you're not allowed to enter this garden." And the Queen turns around, and we're really intimate,
Yeah.
the Queen turns around and said, I've changed a bit. "Don't you tell me what to do. I want to see this garden. I want to experience this garden." And there, on this beautiful curved boardwalk, which I'll show you some photos,
Wow.
there I stood and I had a 4.5 minute conversation with Her Majesty. And the big driver, Adrian, was that Your Majesty, I've designed this landscape to connect humanity back to the beauty of nature.
It's giving me chills.
Of how in our urban environment, we're becoming disconnected with nature, and how we need to repair the land. And so that's like and then we built the garden. We were awarded the top award, best in show, unanimous decision, amazing achievement by this team of volunteers. I came back to Oz. There was articles left, right, and centre, amazing media content, coverage. Got back to Australia, and then would you think Australians would call this guy that kind of had some?
He's too busy.
No,
He costs too much. He'd be,
He's put his prices.
yeah.
And that was really damaging from a mental health perspective, from a business structure, financial impact. I thought, holy crap, we should be rewarded some amazing success here.
Yeah.
Yes, if I stayed in UK, Europe, America.
Oh, they'd be calling. Yep.
Absolutely.
But not. That's it. Do you know, it happens a lot. I remember back in my fashion days dealing with a girl who was Miss New Zealand, Miss Universe New Zealand, something like that. And she said to me, She was doing some modeling for us, and she said, I sat at home for a couple of weeks waiting for the phone to ring, but it didn't ring. Nobody rang. And she said, I was almost, it was like I became untouchable because of my success. And whether, I don't think that's necessarily an Australian thing or a New Zealand thing, just that it is people's perception of, I get the same from being on the TV show, having my podcast. Oh, you must be too busy to design things. As you know, I'm busy, like you're busy. I'm not too busy to design things. That's what lights me up every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and that was a major, like, too much, but that was not a good headspace. That was like, we came back and I had to restructure my business. Yes, I made great contacts. Yes, I could then go to certain key government people to inspire about what we're trying to do, from a sustainable water side of things to promoting renewables to promoting biodiversity. But then COVID hit, and we had all, no, before COVID, we had all these opportunities to rebuild this as a public space. And yeah, let's build it there. Let's build this amazing race course at this Botanic Gardens. Let's build it in the centre of Melbourne. But it changed governments, priorities changed. And unfortunately, we had some material still in containers, and it didn't happen. And it took probably close to 8 years, bit of persistence, re-energized. And we managed to find an amazing site about an hour out of Melbourne, up in the Dandenong Ranges. There was an old disused golf course. So we're really good now at converting old golf courses into these amazing habitats you see behind. So then we raised the funds. Pretty much myself and my company reached out to philanthropic donations. We have people that left money because they just saw what we did, how significant that was. We had another person donate a substantial amount, and she said, what are you going to do to protect it from fire? So we have an automated fire system that runs off the billabong of 1 million litres of water that protects the inner core of this asset through temperatures.
And just for everybody listening, understand that the Dandenongs is a fire zone. This is like extreme fire zone. Yeah.
It's like extreme, and it actually is overdue, and that's the scary thing. And we, through COVID, raised funds, we designed it, we built a nursery to grow plants, Australian plants, larger and larger and larger, so it looked more established when we planted it. We built it through one of the wettest winters. You don't build on top of a mountain with volcanic red soil, a good Italian red soil in the middle of winter. We had no choice. We had
slippery, sticky. Oh my God, everything.
Unbelievable.
Can't clean it off anything.
We delivered it. We scaled it up 28 times the size.
Wow.
We created an environment that is now used to educate, inspire people through training, educational learning about rare and endangered plants. I talked the fire system, but we're collecting over 1 million litres of water off a stormwater drain. And that's why I wanted to build it there, because there was a drain. What you can do with a drain is extraordinary.
Yeah. And this garden sits in pretty much a eucalypt forest, doesn't it?
So back, as I said, like where I have a property, and it's now B&B, Billabong Falls on Airbnb. Go check it out. Really cool.
Yep. Well, give us the details, that we'll post it with the podcast. Yep. People can book in and get a little taste of Phillip's genius.
And nature dose, and like dosing with nature, it just makes us all feel great. And then I'll come to sharing my screen. So then back to the journey of Chelsea and getting there, and from an early stage of designing environments and landscapes to actually inspire people what is possible, because it's not normal what we build. So I had to build examples to show people remarkable examples around like of what you can actually generate and create.
Yeah.
So back in, I don't know, 2000 or something, I embarked on a waterfall tour across I'm just trying to share my screen, across the United
There we
States.
go. Falling Water
And,
starts the
and,
show.
and you linked it goddamn beautifully, I have to say. And
Well,
and
we do a tour. I do a tour to Falling Water that have a company that work with called Feast Experiences. And with Feast Experiences, one of our tours that we do is they're all about food and architecture is Falling Water. So getting this amazing landscape piece is part of that tour and the surrounding area.
and so I went on and saw all these naturalistic waterfalls and creeks and waterfalls and streams and swam and healed. I was going through a really hard time in my life. Swimming in a waterfall is a really energizing thing to do.
Mm.
Then I got told by friends, you've got to see this place. So then I went over to the other side of the States. So I started in Oregon, went through all there. And then I came to Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water. And this, like back to
So for people who aren't watching, we've got the classic view, which is from across the river or across Bear Run Creek. We're looking back into Falling Water, and it is like the most probably photographed classic view of the house, where you see the two big cantilevers that are sitting over the rock form, and then the waterfall that flows out from underneath that. The rest of it, come on tour and you'll really understand the journey. Or don't come on my tour, just go on tour there. Go and have a look. Book in early.
go check it out. I stayed in and slept in the car just around the corner near a waterway, and I had frogs all night because I wanted to be there first in the morning before people got.
We've solved that problem for the tours, but yep, carry on.
And then linked to like the project we're working on at the moment, Adrian,
Yeah.
just that think of landscape architect and architecture, but not just happening at the end when you've already built the landscape. We're having these discussions, looking at opportunities. And what I loved about this is how landscape and architecture can work so beautifully together. I think every room in this building, how it connects to the forest, but more so how it's built on a waterway. Try to do that now. No way. Could we
Yeah, no,
build
you'd never never be allowed. Yeah.
and that's what inspired for me my place, my old home, which is now B&B, of I had this beautiful house that was built on stilts, counterleaving like a tree house over a driveway. But that driveway was my catchment. So I'm about to click onto the next image where you'll see our place.
Yeah, wow.
Walls, ferns, like what I talked about, my grandparents.
Mhm.
We're in a cool temperate rainforest, but off our driveway,
Yep.
I've got an image of a drain, a stormwater drain. Walk outside this evening or this morning, have a look at the drainage infrastructure around your home or building or rooftop or public open space or shopping center. Where's all that stormwater go? What can you do with that water? That's your resource of water that you could potentially collect and store when you need.
Yes.
So from this drain, and I spoke to a range of landscape architects over in the UK, just at the right next to the Royal Albert Hall, like amazing opportunity. And I started with this picture.
With that picture, you blew their minds with that. Yeah. It's a little utilitarian, but yeah.
I love drains.
Yeah.
What you can do with a drain or a water spout, or
Yeah.
so from that drain, I'm collecting that water and I'm built these naturalistic waterways.
Yeah, wow.
And creeks and waterfalls. And the picture now.
For people who are watching this, not watching this, but listening, this is really worth seeing. But you've got these fern trees, you've got big gums, you've got a rock waterfall that's coming down with the house cantilevered over kind of the top of it into what would be like a billabong ponding situation. Lots of lushness. This would be a rainforest almost type environment, like
temperate rainforest. So it gets
but it's in a Euclid area. Yeah.
Correct. So that big tree you see behind there is a Eucalyptus regnans.
Yeah,
so
that big one on the right-hand side of the screen. Yeah, big, massive Euclid.
Massive. And at the other end, I've got another series of cascades and waterfalls. So when it rains, the water it goes to that drain, comes out the stormwater pipe system, and it creates this natural series of cascades that goes down into our lower billabong.
Mm. Just aside, have you ever been to Uluru when it's raining?
I got there the day after rain, unfortunately. I have photos of it raining. I had photos of it trickling.
It's on my bucket list to be able to go.
At the
It's raining in Uluru on a plane there that day and then just hang out while it rains. I've seen photographs. I've been there after rain, but yeah, Uluru in itself is beyond magical. Then when it rains, everybody just says you've never experienced anything like it anywhere on the planet. It's something beyond. Yeah.
So why don't we celebrate that, Adrian? Why don't we put that into every single architectural form, building, and house? That's what my whole drive.
That's what we should be doing. Yeah.
I've designed this public open space. It's centre of Melbourne with a 13-metre high waterfall dropping off at National Gallery of Victoria. I want to build it. It's not being built, and creating a series of waterfalls down to this main river in the centre of Melbourne.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. When are they building that?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I've got another picture here.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
I built this awesome natural pool. So this is not running off water off our driveway. This is running off roof water that we collect. And then it fluctuates seasonally. And this
what's the base of that pond? Is it a pond or is it a swimming pool?
This is a natural pool. So this is a chemical swimming pool. So this has got a combination of different, depends on the site. We build natural pools sometimes out of certain rubber membranes. Sometimes it is out of concrete. I don't like building out of concrete because it uses a lot of concrete, as we know what concrete's made from.
Although pound for dollar, it's still probably one of our best things for longevity, etc., etc. But yeah.
So this has got a flexible membrane under this surface, under this finished surface here. Concrete footings where we've built the waterfalls. And stormwater pipes from the roof. So your downpipe, so from your roof, you're collecting your water. It comes in where that main big waterfall is behind my wife here, Sarah.
Yep.
And that waterfall can run when it rains as well. So
yeah, awesome. And so with this is a natural swimming pool. So this could be built at anybody's place, maybe not quite as extensive as that, but there's no need to swim in chemicals. What happens with all that? Yeah, how does that work? Like how does a natural swimming pool operate and work, and why don't more people do it?
I think everyone should be doing it. So a chlorinated or salt pool is dead water. Okay, it supports no life.
Yeah,
a natural pool has a range of filtration and regeneration zones, so different depths of plantings of water plants at different depths and underwater plants. We have a specific area that's dedicated with a filtration system. In that has certain substrates that has the ability to bind phosphorus out of the water, releasing it as a soluble form to be taken up by plant material. Basically, it's actually mimicking what occurs in nature.
Right.
Looking at natural systems of how we can actually clean and purify water in a clever way.
And the benefits, obviously, rather than swimming in chemicals, what other benefits does it give to, if you're inhabiting the pool?
And that's why my hair's really curly, if you can see.
And dark.
It's fresh water. It's not got harsh chemicals in it. You don't feel dry after it. You feel actually like kind of re-energized. And my youngest son, Gus, he can't swim in chemical pools, or when he swims and learns to swim, because the eczema he gets from the chlorine and the burning feeling, that's not right. And our partner that we've worked with for years now, Polyplan, they've been involved in designing public pools all around the world. Okay, we're talking next level.
We're natural pools, like this.
Public natural pools like this, but on a massive scale. Some are now built in Canada, some are now in the US, and they've set up systems that they can analyze water quality every second of the day, remote access.
Yeah, wow.
Like we can heat a natural pool. We can still swim laps in it. We can learn like swim laps. You can do amazing things. It doesn't need to look naturalistic, which I can show you some others.
Yeah.
Later.
This particular one that that Phil's got on the screen now has got a beautiful curving path. Got to understand this is a swimming pool, and in Australia we have fencing regulations. And if you can go on YouTube and have a look at this, I defy you to find the fencing. One of the things is we do have very, very strict fencing regulations around pools. We don't around natural billabongs or lakes or, dams and things. But this is within those fencing regulations. And when you can see how the landscape can just disappear into this and the grounding effect of it. I'm a surfer. I don't have a swimming pool at home. I'm a surfer. I go to the beach probably at least 4 times a week. And I get my dose of minerals and salts and all that from being immersed in the water for several hours at a time. And even if it's not surfable, I'll be down there grabbing a swim. And that's part of my sort of thing of going, if I had a pool, it would be like this. But otherwise, I've got a massive pool at the bottom of the road that's salty, which is fabulous as well. So I really take this on. And, we've got this joint client who it was one of his key drivers was a natural swimming pool was something he wanted for him and his family. And something that created amazing beauty in the landscape as well.
You talked before about Uluru. Uluru is this amazing rock, very spiritual space in the center of Australia. And I'm sure so many people listening to this have been to these beautiful spaces around the world, these waterways, these waterholes, these waterfalls, these beautiful naturalistic spaces, connecting to country, how energizing that is. And why not we create these environments that are so inspiring and then also support biodiversity, Adrian?
Yeah.
And then the next slide I'm about to show you is why I built all these bodies of water. And this property has no mains water. We don't collect water from a reservoir. We're off the grid independent.
So you collect it independently and you treat it independently. Everything happens within the property.
Within the property. So my roof water goes to large rainwater tanks.
Yep.
That are protected from flame and heat.
Yep. That's part of your fire resistance strategy.
Then all my drains off my driveway goes down to my lower billabong that I showed you before. The water quality is a bit darker. It looks more like a natural system. Then underground, I have a fire pump in a bunker. So protecting the heart of the system. That heart, that water supply is connected to the top billabong here, the top natural pool, the lower billabong, and my rainwater tanks. So in the event of a fire, when it comes through, because it's going to come through very soon, hopefully the tech will work, the heat sensors will activate, and basically the property, windows, everything.
You're showing the pictures of the windows.
It goes with water. We have an inner and an outer ring of water around the residence. And then managing the drainage, like day one in our meetings we have with yourself, looking at the civil side of things, a water runoff of the property, you can then think about where does that water then go to? So your available water, because we don't have connection to a hydrant.
A reservoir.
Or a hydrant. We're completely independent. And that's what we've done here. I've also have a last resort. If you are caught, there is a bunker on site. Underground chamber, but our plan is not to be there, to eliminate the risk, to disappear, and hopefully use technology like this and control measures we put in through the design to protect the asset.
So the windows. Yes, I was about to say, so the picture that we've got up here, there's a whole lot of regulations in Australia about glass and how that has to be treated in these high zones. The picture that we've got up here is a dining table sitting in a corner with, you can't really see, you can see through the windows, but of course they've got water flooding over them as it's wetting down the outside of their house. I've got this friend, Brandon Jorgensen. We just dropped his podcast today. Oh, not today, last week, sorry, end of last week. And he does a lot of work he's an architect in the Napa Valley area and also in Hawaii. So he's got a place in Hawaii as well. And with that, Brandon has some, amazing, again, fire resistant building type structures and then landscapes around them. It's this, again, this meeting of the minds of how do you build in these zones, especially places like the Napa and Sonoma and that, where there's the fire zones just like where you are. And what do you do with the architecture to support that? And then what do you do with the landscape around that to support that? And, you know, like we're talking about before about, say, Los Angeles, which is, you know, just horrific and devastating for so many people in their lives. And the city will be rebuilt. It will go on. We know that. But we just had big fires in Maui as well, just, you know, recently. And these are two very diverse climates. That one's a desert-based climate. The other's actually way more of a rainforest type climate. It's not rainforest, but it's a different climate from LA. And both of them susceptible to fire and what we can do in that environment to make it work. And I think that there's probably some, I don't know where the education piece comes from, but there's the people like you that as LA gets rebuilt and as Maui, those pieces of Maui are rebuilt as well, and whatever we're having in Australia, as they're rebuilt, how our regulations might tell us we've got to put this glass in and we've got to do this and we can't have these ember traps and all the rest. That's one thing. But then what are we doing with our landscape and our greater landscape to help manage it as well, like you're talking about, that water collection, the use of the water, taking it gently from the natural environment, making it into a enhanced natural environment that keeps humans safe, because we do want to go and live in these zones.
Absolutely, and it's absolutely utterly devastating what's occurred, and we're surrounded by major natural disasters here in Victoria and Australia all the time, and it's just how we can be resilient and learn from these things. And actually, we've been now doing this for like close to 30 years. I've been doing it, and how we can learn us Aussies of what we've learned to live in a very fire-prone area.
Yes.
And how we need to actually manage some of our forests with fuel reduction, or we call it ecological burns, because our traditional landowners did a lot of controlled mosaic burning that occurred to reduce intensity, so we don't just get this major fire event, because the forests have been burned at all different times over the last hundreds and thousands of years.
I remember going into the redwood forests up in Muir Woods, I think was where I was, up in San Francisco area. And we were doing a walking tour with somebody. So there was a guide that we went and did a walk with. And I kind of like, often I think, oh, just go for your walk, Adrian. You don't need to be bloody told the stories and all the rest. Anyway, we did this with the guide, and when we were doing it with the guide, one of the things that was really, really fascinating was he was saying, well, a redwood won't germinate without a fire. So they suppressed all these fires for many, many years, and they couldn't germinate any new redwoods because it needs the seed pod to open with it. And then also it has, its bark is saturated. It's a water transit system for the whole tree is in the bark. And you start to go, oh, okay. And you were talking also earlier about the Billabong, and I was out Uluru and McDonald Ranges and those areas a couple of years ago. Oh, yeah, just beautiful, beautiful parts of Australia. And there was a tour going on, and we weren't in the tour, but we were walking along the same track. And there's this, one of the guys who was a guide, he was saying to these people, he's saying, okay, so put your ear against this tree. And so there's just a gum tree, and we're walking along track, and it's got a rocky kind of, what would be a dry creek bed, but some places you can't even tell it's a creek bed. And put your ear against the tree, and now listen to the water running below it. And you're like, what? And so I'm like hearing this while we're waiting to get past this big group of people. I'm like, said to him, mate, for real? And he's like, put your ear against the tree. And he said, try that one, try that one, try that one. Gave me different trees. He said, all of them will do it. But being like a stethoscope that's going to, you can hear how far the water is below. You can hear it cascading. You can hear it rippling. You can hear it sometimes just whispering. He goes, that's how our people know where water is. Like, it's not on top of the landscape, it'd evaporate.
Amazing, amazing. And hey, you said something really beautiful there about that experience through the McDonald Ranges and
Oh,
thing, and looking at natural environments. And that's something it's all part of my DNA, is that looking at nature for
yeah,
inspiration, that biomimicry, and looking at that dry creek that you
yeah,
saw could one day be a waterway, or could be the drainage point to send the water to the billabong or wetland or lake. But looking at how Mother Nature so beautifully crafts these natural environments and systems. So that's what I talk a
yeah.
lot with my team, of looking at these natural environments when you're building things. It's not just all the same size rock, it's combinations of different, I call it a soup mixture of rocks. So it's a
Yeah.
whole large right down to little small pieces of stone to create environment.
It's a full environment, eh? It's a full environment. Um, with actually the built structure, I know you've got some new photos with some rammed earth and stuff in it, and the project that we are working on is got a Japanese influence to it because of the heritage of one of the owners, and it's something that's really beautiful to play with. But we're still playing it in a very Australian way. We're tipping our hat to the culture, and I know that you've got some of these other ones. And one of our conversations recently, one of the things I was learning from you was I have this big westerly wind that I've got to block on this property. It's prevalent. It's horrendous when it's there. And I'm doing another property in New South Wales, which it actually has a southerly wind that can do the same. And I was saying to Phil, yeah, I'm just going to build these walls. And he's like, being nice to me, not saying, oh, don't be an idiot, Adrian, you don't do it that way. I'm like saying, I want to build these rammed earth walls as windbreaks. And he's saying to me, yeah, well, actually, if we shape the landscape on the other side of those, we can give you calm over here just by how we shape out our landscape. And you might give yourself some walls and stuff for parts of the aesthetic of what you're doing, but we can shift that wind from here to here. And I know I've done this with roofs before, but I hadn't really considered it so much at the ground level and what we could do so easily. So take us through some of your closer to the built structure environments where we're seeing those, maybe it's rammed earth, maybe it's something else.
And then that biomimicry
Mm,
I was just talking about is looking at, let's go, well, what do we know that it's got mounds that were in a windy environment?
the
Adrian?
seashore.
Hey, you've been swimming this morning. You look nice and refreshed. Your skin looks great, by the way. There must be that lovely little bit of nature in the ocean.
Yeah,
It's a good ocean,
absolutely.
isn't it?
Funny that. Yeah.
What's the water temperature like?
Ours is running at about 23 degrees. It's probably a
Oh,
bit hot, to tell you the truth. We're seeing this with global warming as well, like where I'm lucky enough. So if you're overseas and you want to see where I'm based, you can look up Phil. He's in the Dandenongs in Victoria. I'm based in Queensland, and I am in a region called the Sunshine Coast. And we are kind of the first open area below the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef comes down, and then we have Fraser Island, the world's biggest sand island, and that is just above us. And then we're the first sort of open coastline that runs down from there. And then that starts to get filled up with sand islands, Stradbroke Island, these islands, Bribie, that all go down and create what's called the Pumice Passage. So we've got a little opening to the north of Brisbane City, which has open beaches, and otherwise everything's kind of back tucked into waterways. And then when we go south, we leave past Stradbroke Island, and then we hit open beaches for many, many miles, all the way down through northern New South Wales and on down through there. The world famous surf breaks of Snapper and Kirra and all those places are just on that border section. But the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast actually have open ocean beaches. So yeah, water temperature is a little bit warm in the sense that the warm water that we get that comes down from the tropics into our subtropical area has the tendency to allow different inhabitants, mainly like jellyfish and stuff like that. So in the far north of Australia, you don't swim in the sea for a couple of reasons. One of them is crocodiles, and the other one is jellyfish, like irukandji jellyfish and stuff like that. So swimming in the sea is, you do it, but you do it in stinger suits and stuff. As this temperatures warming up with global warming, we're more likely to get that coming closer to us. Currently, we're all good. But yeah, beautiful spot to live, idyllic climate, hot, never too cold. If there was something wrong with it, it's just a bit too boring, like it's 330 sunshine days a year, mate.
Tour guide, do a surfing trip around Oz.
Mate, absolutely. Let's do it.
No, back to sand dunes, is looking at sand dunes, you primary, secondary sand dune.
Yeah.
We're talking, we get some unbelievable winds, and I'm sure everyone's been to a coastline, walk through a series of primary, secondary sand dunes, protected, windier, extremely windy, and how you can look and basically mimic forms like that within the landscape to help create a more pleasurable environment for our client.
Yes.
And so that's what we've looked at that project of yours, is how we could actually build up the earth from excavated material off the site. So it's repurposing material off the site in a clever way. Of course, protect the facade, and we work with yourself and damp course and everything that
all
goes.
Those things. Yeah.
Build this kind of a landscaped environment that comes up. So basically brings that westerly wind and actually sends it up over the natural pool, their
built structure, everything.
So they're protected from the winds. So looking at nature to create those environments. And then if there's a fire situation, we use a rock mulch, as I said before, which I'll show you.
Yeah, show some pictures of some of that stuff, because it's absolutely beautiful. And again, I'd really encourage people to go on YouTube and have a look at this, because, or just go Phil's website as well. But yeah, the ability to create these curated, I can see that, curated environments that give amazing protection to a home.
So this is a very new project that we've just completed about 18 months ago.
Modern contemporary home,
wonderful round earth walls, a little private Japanese courtyard space in here, really calm space. And then we have the back of the property where all the storm water went to an old dam, we call, like you'd see in a farm, that was leaking, that wasn't holding water, which we've now put a membrane in it to retain the water and rebuilt it. And so and that's where all the storm water goes. And then that's where our valuable water to help protect the property for fire or to assist in irrigation it could come from in that space. Running off renewables, but every heart is redirected of collecting that water down into the waterway. Let me just.
This house strikes me as being a very easy house to live indoor and outdoor. And look at this photo here. So here we're looking up between a rammed earth wall and I don't know what the siding is on the house, but then into this landscape dry rock garden. That looks pretty lush.
Yeah, this is a remarkable space. It's actually my favorite space in the whole. It's a couple of acres, the property. It's a really calm. Once again, it's placement of rock. Don't overthink it. Like randomly. Try to teach my team randomly. Look at the Japanese, but I even had a Professor Fukuhara-san, who also won Chelsea many years ago, Best in Show, and he designs the Japanese gardens around the world. And that's one thing I'd love to be doing, is designing possibly Australian gardens around the world.
Yes.
More so. And he came to Australia, went to the Botanic Gardens, then came up to my place that I showed you before, Billabong Falls up in Olinda, and he said, "Oh, Phillip-san, you're a master. I haven't met many foreigners that can place rock like myself. Oh, domo, arigato." Right.
I love it.
I do have a Japanese sister-in-law. And that's the thing with the placement of stone, is really important how we place stone within the landscape. Sometimes think randomity, look at nature by mimicry. Don't overthink it. Sometimes the rock can show you how to be placed. But what I love about this is how that form of the contour and earth is actually connected to the rammed earth. Project,
me too.
Adrian, you were talking before, we could do that basically at a next level, mimicking a sand dune in a really clever way.
Yeah.
And if when fire comes through these spaces,
it's when, it's not if.
It's embers hitting the rock. It can't combust. It can't burn. Rock does not burn. Hitting the facade that is non-combustible. Cautious of leaving your doormat on your decking that can actually ignite. There's so many elements when we look in design spaces that we think of. And artist, father, my dad got me into John Constable and Sir Joseph Turner from a young age when I was a young teenager, and just atmosphere and light, man. Oh my God, that's something I just get so excited about. What you can do with light, play shadows, but play of solstice, play of light. This one tree, the reflection of the tree or lighting through the tree to bring the foliage inside the residence. There's so many wonderful things that I just get so excited by what could be achieved. And I think there's probably a great discussion and a piece there, Adrian, to work further with architecture of what we can do, bringing landscape and patterns and movement of water and ripples of water onto the ceilings and into the master bedroom. Imagine that, man. This beautiful mood happening through landscape treatment and water treatment and way lighting goes through foliage.
One of the things we have on that particular property is we have some incredible old gum trees. I don't know how old, hundreds and hundreds of years old.
100, 600 years old?
Yeah. So like serious old gum trees. And we want to highlight those as viewpoints from the home. And so we have some windows that are just very specifically spaced to do that and to bring those into the home. With that, having, like these single viewpoints. And one of the things that, obviously you're a master at is creating viewpoints. So the photo that you have up now with this rock with a shelf of a rock cantilevering as well with water falling off it. And then what's the tree that's, the one that's all spiky? It's
called a Xantheria glauca.
That's why I didn't spoke.
And these have actually been rescued from a site up in Queensland, which has been cleared for development for housing estates. And I question reusing them. I do question that, but I want to repurpose it. I want to put it back into a landscape. Extraordinary plants, but again, evolve through fire. As you say, sequoias, these have evolved needing to burn to help assist in regeneration and has amazing. And another interesting point, looking at plant material, especially trees, how they protect themselves through fire. So skip back to Billabong Falls. My big trees there are mountain ash. They have a smooth bark. They need fire to regenerate. They can die from fire because the bark is not thick enough to protect the xylem, the waters and the phloem, which is the sugars up and down. It's not a thick bark. Where some of our other trees in areas where a more northern aspect, where we get our north winds that are burning more and drier ridges and things, have a thick bark that actually insulates the tree from fire, protects the tree, saves the tree, helps seed be regenerated, but the tree doesn't die. The same with the grass tree. The texture around that trunk actually insulates the tree. At my place, Billabong Falls, the ferns are extremely resilient to be burnt. The fibers there can be protected from fire. I'm talking 1,000 degrees Celsius. These plants can actually adapt and actually survive. So there's some interesting materiality from insulation and building that you can learn by looking at nature, by memory as well.
100%. I mean, sorry, you go.
And this image here, this was a clay dam.
Yeah, right.
We've craned my team like, I don't know, it's like this amazing, exciting moments because all these rocks are craned into location, strategically, meticulously craned to a level of detail that's next level to get water flow, water direction, looking like you've built on the waterway of Frank Lloyd Wright's water.
Falling water.
So like, as you see here, and I hope people reach out to us because we can build these environments anywhere around the world. Like we can build the most amazing kind of landscape going through and around a residence and underneath and through the courtyard and out and celebrate it when it rains, Adrian.
Oh,
And what
look,
we
and
do at our project through
it,
rain painting.
yeah. And even if it doesn't rain, you go to a Palm Springs type environment or somewhere like that where there isn't rain, you can still create so much with the dry landscape as well that just journeys you again to, oh God, look at that photo, looking straight down on those trees. That's amazing. That big pond, that's a billabong as
Billabong.
such. It's not a swimmer. You
Not
don't swim in
swimmable.
that one. Well, you could though, I suppose.
But that changes the use of it. So that's the thing too in our
Oh,
region. So it's really important that when we design things, it's based on, like, if we're going to build a natural pool, it needs to be fenced. So we had to adhere
yes.
to regulations. A
Yeah.
spa, we build on sens, so like hot springs, which are really, really beautiful spaces.
Yeah.
What I love about this, as you can see, the randomality of the grass trees I was talking about
Yeah.
before, random arrangements, but the aerial view, what the drone has taken, it's gorgeous. Like looking from an aerial
Oh,
perspective.
it's almost a crime you can't see it like that the whole time. It's so
But,
beautiful.
but that's where designing and looking down on the landscape is important too, to think of. Stepping stones at the top of the image here, we've got these beautiful stepping stones just going on an experience through the kind of shallow area of the Billabong, like connecting people back to nature, like the kiddiness. We're all still kids. We love jumping on stepping stones.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
goes to a really important biodiversity environment of this ecosystem, this like naturalistic, shallow, marginal environment where great tadpole habitat. We get these like little marsupials called anteaters, not anteaters, echidnas coming into the shallow margins. Frogs lay their eggs here. Dragonflies lay their larvae here. So it's a really important point of helping cleaning the water of this billabong too. This point. So
It's super inspiring. Oh, wow. Look at this. Yeah. Yeah. With the moment you're seeing like a very built structure, it is a rammed earth and then a big floating roof and then the dry landscape just protecting it, I imagine. So you've got your lawn, which would burn, and then you get up to the dry landscape. And the big billabong again.
Love to show you. I've got to show you this. This is a random moment.
There's you and the Queen.
It's me and the Queen.
And you dressed up.
I dressed up, mate. I had my favorite lucky suit on there, man. And that was just such a humbling and incredible moment. And
I love that you came down to her height to talk to her and describe the landscape from the level she sees it as. Too often people miss getting to the height of the people they're talking to,
And we informed Her Majesty about the rebuild of this project, the new rebuild at the Chelsea Australian Garden up in Olinda. And we kept her informed just up until her passing, and just hearing back the innovation, like the positive hope through COVID. So it's just beautiful to hear a positive story about what we're trying to do to rebuild what we've built here.
Wow. Yeah. So again, even if you have listened to this in audio only, grab it on YouTube and just go and have a look at these landscapes. So next level. This is your Waratah Tower sculpture.
I should actually say Dylan Brady's Waratah.
Yes. Yeah.
And how these 120 blades interact different times of the year, misty days, Adrian, to how light afternoon, evening, morning hits the space. And those 120 petals you see there, you zoom right in, you'll see a fixed live streaming camera. Soon you will be able to access this garden anywhere around the world. We have 7 live streaming cameras that will be at certain points at certain times of the year that you can actually engage and connect with this space.
It's stunning. It's stunning. Yeah, I love the fact that you bring in these things like the ladder and the pieces that sort of like really humanize it as well as keep it very natural and almost like tell you of the access you can have and the journey and the story that that tells. Look at this waterfall. And this was all just a golf course, right? This was just flat land,
Just a
or
golf course
flat but on an angle. Yeah,
with
sloping land.
with a 16-meter level of change to deal with.
Yeah.
I love working on steep sides. I love the opportunity of working on a steep site, what you can actually do and
I think,
deliver.
yeah, that point of being able to get and your views looking down like this here, this garden here where we've got sort of hard stand paths and then timber pieces and dry creek beds and running into the billabong, some informal, some formal. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful.
And on the edge of the boardwalk here, we have a pipe that works as the kick rail, but then there's another little fire system that actually doses the whole area with water as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, you know, well, again, this is these rocks. This is your rock climbing background really coming to the fore, isn't it? And the energy of the rock.
Next
Yeah,
level.
yeah,
And you got to remember, these rocks aren't coming from a forest or this is from a quarry,
yes.
the byproduct of the mining process of these big rocks. They push them off to the side, then they drill and crush them further and further and crush them into road base to make concrete or roads, drainage material. But we found these remarkable pieces of stone, and like what I like this stone has, I believe, fossils all through it.
Sure.
And it's a conversation piece, and it's a point for people to come and touch, people to place pebbles on top and build other little things, kids to climb on. Fine, I want people to play and connect with our landscapes, and I think that's what's so important in a public open space. And we received some such exciting news a couple of months ago too, Adrian, that this public open space. Remember, we're designed and built this and fundraised.
Mm-hmm.
It has just been awarded the World Urban Park's most outstanding new urban park in the world.
Wow, congratulations, man.
And
that's phenomenal.
That's my team of men and women that worked meticulously hard to help deliver this. This is not just me. I have an extraordinary team of people that have come for the journey and helped execute a level of detail.
Beyond them, also the vision of the gardens that you put it in, that they allowed it, that they, made this, they partnered in having it happen with you. It's phenomenal to be able to leave such a lasting mark on the landscape that only enhances everything that's happening, and taking it back from being a golf course, an old disused golf course where it had been manicured and everything else, and bringing it into this sort of space. This next picture that Phil's got up.
Just before that, and that golf course, remember, we've manipulated and altered that landscape to a next level.
Yeah.
And then we've repaired it now and brought it back. Amazing space. I had this during the build, because it's important, like the projects we've worked on, we do connect to country, to connect to elders, the traditional landowners of Australia, about what we're doing. And so they're wary, they're understanding, they're supportive. And we had an elder, Uncle Ringo, come up to our place, and he was in awe. He was very emotional seeing what has been generated and created here, because X amount of time he hadn't been back to that area for some time. He stopped at the bottom of the mountain and actually wept. Like he was an hour, because he was taken from his family in the stolen generation.
Wow.
And he's now coming back into this area of country where he's now just arrived at a new amazing Australian garden, celebrating everyone to try to learn and connect to this amazing country. It was a really moving time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he did a smoking ceremony there, and we had these birds. I think you've got the feather on your hat.
I did.
Kookaburra. And we had these kookaburras, which are beautiful birds. Please look them up, flying in. And I said, the kookaburras have been following me the whole journey, right to like back in 2013 when I was trying to raise the funds. Every night I used to see kookaburras on the way home on this one tree sitting there. And he said, that's your spirit. That's your spirit bird. And it was a really, humbling moment, and an important moment.
It is so, like whilst we keep, as humans keep pushing out our environments into more natural land and stuff, it is so beautiful to see the way that you are bringing it back, treating it, and how that makes people feel, what it does for their humanness and connects them with it. Like the photo you've got up at the moment is this very, very, very strong contemporary or modern piece of architecture, and then the most beautiful gardens that are running up into it of native Australian, gardens, but the positioning of the rocks in this very structured environment. So it's gorgeous, like really gorgeous.
And
The
when I
rocks and the
talk rock
plants. Yep.
mulch, all the surface is a non-combustible surface meeting the facade.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
as,
Mind you, that facade doesn't look like it'd been. It looks like it's Corten steel.
it does, absolutely, but it's the treatment, what you
Yeah.
want to manage
Yeah.
ember having a non-combustible ring around the residence.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is
No,
a very dry landscape, a very exposed, a very hot, unirrigated landscape. So basically, it just is dependent on rainfall.
yeah, right. I have a question with this. So I'm going to ask it you in two ways. One is first of all, if you were to talk about your favorite place in your, don't have to identify the actual piece of landscape, but in a landscape that you've designed, what is your favorite piece? If you could only go back to one and be there, what would that be? And what emotion would it evoke for you? Being in the space evoke, not, oh, I'm joyful because I got to go back to the last thing, but just being in the landscape, what emotion does it evoke for you?
The public garden I've just completed.
Yeah.
So definitely, without a doubt, yes, it's been a critical part of my journey. It's been a discovery journey for my mental health. A lot about how I'm programmed in a pretty wacky way. How I need to use my skill to inspire and not I can't micromanage. I've got to empower people to believe in their ability to deliver and to from this artistic creative mind to empower my team of men and women to roll it out. That's been an amazing journey. We've captured all that, by the way. I'm looking. We've got a documentary. I'm just waiting.
Wow.
If anyone knows anyone out there, we've got 4 episodes. It'd be the most exciting series. It's like next level what we've built. So if anyone knows anything, we've got the content. We just need to
Get it
roll it out.
broadcast.
Get it broadcast, mate. Amazing. But that there, yeah, I think designing a space for future generations, it's now public for everyone to enjoy. It's actually important for my family's connection and story, for memories and family, future, like a place to go and kind of just connect. And like it's so exciting to have built that.
Yeah.
And to inspire people, young kids, to anyone visiting the space of how amazing this country is, and to the beauty of this country.
Yes.
It's a wonderful canvas there, what I had to build. The old golf course.
Yeah, absolutely. The golf course. If there was one emotional word that summed up that garden for you, what would it be?
Fair bit going on. There's a fair bit going on in that space because the beauty of our minds, there's a fair bit going on. What we try to create, like I pushed that project to a level which was next level, and a level probably above that, and.
Oh, what did it just win? The World Heritage? What
World Urban Parks Award for the most outstanding new urban park in the world.
Yeah. So you pushed it a little bit.
Pushed it a little bit. But in that, it's to inspire people what is possible. It's about sustainable design, about water collection, about rare and endangered plants. We have 100 different species of threatened and endangered plants in the garden. We've got a little collection of Wollemi pines,
Mm,
which date back to 90 or maybe 90 or 60 million years old, back to the
mm,
dinosaurs.
mm,
They were donated from a botanic gardens. So
mm.
I find this space, there's a lot going on in it, a lot going on in there. And my kind of what we do in nature, there's a fair bit going on in nature. She's overwhelming, like what she
Yeah.
has created in
Oh,
space.
it is everything.
And that's what I wanted to do is to inspire and create this space that kind of overwhelms people. To go, wow, oh, I never knew you could do this. Oh, wow, this is running off a drain. Oh, wow, we can actually design a
It,
landscape that can
it's
also
interesting,
have
like
water.
as you say, like it's not, as you say, there's a fair bit going on. It's the levels of being able to, what you can't see inspires you as much as what you can see. And I get that every time I'm talking to you, I get that. I'm like, bloody hell. Hold on. I'm not looking at the surface here. I'm looking at a whole ecostructure, and I can go down the rabbit hole on the ecostructure, and you get crazy passionate about every piece of it, like every piece of it. And um, so as a last question, in the built structures that you live in, your own home, what is your most favorite space in your own home? And we're going to go to why. But what is the space that you couldn't live with or you wouldn't live without?
So we live just out of Melbourne in the Yarra Valley. It was an old vineyard, which bad varieties, which we've removed, which we've now, a lot of the properties around where we live are agricultural, cherries, strawberries. It's a beautiful soil. I often say you can put a finger in, you can grow a hand or maybe two hands. How fertile it is. But it's farmed extensively. And what my passion about what we're doing on this property is repairing, and my wife Sarah, is we're repairing the land. We are demonstrating that we can still grow plants for work, okay, but we can also repair the land, and this soil should have the forest back. So we're actually planting indigenous plants with our local community, with our local councils. It's called Ribbons of Green, creating these habitat corridors back. And we've already planted 25,000 indigenous, locally sourced plants within the property. Uh,
Wow.
my favorite part of this property is our new little billabong we've just built because I haven't had water there for some time. Because normally I'm water man, and I'm all over water. Yes, we've had COVID. Yes, funds disappeared. Yes, we had to keep the business going. All these things of running a self-employed, and, and having beautiful children. And the thing is, my life is it's really important work-life balance. I have a really amazing wife, Sarah. She's incredible support. Two remarkably talented, challenging boys,
Not
and
unlike their father. Yeah.
and a couple of months ago, we had an old decking. So the house is 20 something years old. Old decking was collapsing. Okay. They put the decking boards up the wrong way and would say collected water. And I was going to rebuild the decking. And then I thought, "Oh, I've got a pile of rocks over there." And then I said, okay, boys, and we were sitting around the fire pit, our old fire pit, which is terrible. And I said, here's a couple of crowbars and a couple of jimmy bars and a couple of sledgehammers. And
How old are your boys?
11 and 12 at the time.
Yep.
And our neighbor, Huey, he's about 8. And then the boys just started demolishing the whole decking. They removed it all. They were on a mission. We repurposed the
They'll
timber.
never forget it.
And then they said, we should build a billabong. And I said, yeah, man, you're right on. You're talking my language. And it was what I loved about it. It wasn't me saying, okay, we're going to do this and build this. Here's the design. Here's the whopping great grand design thing. No,
Yeah.
I wanted
Here's
my
Phillip Johnson. He'll tell you how it's
I
done.
want
Yeah.
my kids to learn and go, wow. So then over the next couple of days, this is a long weekend we had, and we built this awesome billabong. And
Wow.
the kids were part of the journey. And now we built this fire pit that celebrates late afternoon lights and these cool eucalypt trees around that we've got night lighting on. And that's my favorite spot for conversations with neighbors, friends, family. It's
Yeah.
a great spot to meditate, to kind of re-energize in the mornings or evenings. So that's
Yeah, I love
my
that.
spot
I
at the
love that.
moment. And my dream is to keep repairing this land and show a wonderful example of how we can repair it and rejuvenate it. And because we're so blessed to have this parcel
Yeah.
of land, and
Yeah.
that's what I want to do.
I love the way that you go back to the Chelsea garden that you've rebuilt, the Australian Chelsea garden that you've rebuilt. And it's all about inspiring everybody, anybody who comes, like, let them journey on it. And I know from when I visited it with you, if I hadn't visited it with you, I would have seen, maybe I would have got a big visual impact, and I would have seen 20% of it. Obviously I would have seen 100% of it, but I would have not absorbed 100% of it. I reckon I left absorbing maybe, 50% of it. And it was just all way too fast, all way too, yeah, with the purpose of viewing it, but not with the purpose of living in it, kind of thing, like. And then I got into those discussions about, the different plant species, and I don't know plants. I like the form of them, but I don't know one from another particularly. And then getting that next level down about why the plant reacts in a certain way in a certain environment, how it will behave because it's in the right environment and it's supported. And these parts of it just, I suppose, blew my mind. Those were the parts that I came away going, look, there's this beautiful thing. But my inspiration was that next point down. Yes, the beauty. Don't be just knocked out by the beauty. It's like, the beautiful human. Don't be knocked out by the beauty, be knocked out by the personality. And then getting into that kind of next level of personality that it was delivering, I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And knowing that I was just getting, like a little sprinkling of fairy dust because there was so much more. I think that's what the part that it inspires. And then you take it to your home in the Yarra Valley where the kids creating the billabong. That's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy of
Yeah.
them picking it up and them taking it forward and them being inspired. I love that.
And the 12 months prior to that, after finishing that public garden, as you can imagine, pretty worn out, I had to re-energize and to connect back to the beauty of this country. And we traveled around Australia with my wife and my kids, and I just love that journey of our children connecting to spaces, not with me saying,
Yep.
"Hey, plant out or check this beautiful thing out." And no, I loved that. How I can actually share a couple of photos. It's really
You
beautiful.
do. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, to of what. Sorry, I just got to get that working. Stop sharing that. Sorry.
No, no, you're good, man.
Just my boys, how they actually go share. No, it's not that picture. Sorry, you can cut this out.
So no, 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 I won't be cutting it out. It's fine. Um, One of the pieces with this is understanding like where Phil's brain goes, and then also where he physically can go. And whether you be in the US or whether you be in England or wherever you are in the world, um, Phil's incredible resource to be able to bring world-class environments to you. And I would encourage you to, he's a busy man, I know how to just get hold of him myself, but bring world-class environments to wherever you are. If you're in Texas, if you're in Phoenix or whatever, like a conversation with Phil will not go amiss. And then the possibility of working with him to create something is an inspired journey, to say the least. Everything that he just explained about those two spaces, he's got a vision, but you're part of the vision. It's he wants you to light up as much as he does so that he can play. It's like that's where it gets super duper. You might have to lift that up on the screen. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, look at this. We just did a job actually, Phil. We were just tidying up a house for some people, and they showed me these pictures of the Hawkesbury River with the sandstone and the trees, the gnarled trees on the Hawkesbury. And so we designed a facade change to it, not big, but just bringing in different sandstone, and we've got some visual art that will happen on it and stuff. And it's this biomimicry, but we're putting it on the house. These pictures are of I don't know, where are they, Phil?
This is a Carragini, just near the Kimberleys in Western Australia,
Yep.
top of Western Australia. Just remarkable, naturalistic,
Yep.
very, very spiritual spaces.
For for you Texans, this reminds me a little bit of the space around Jacob's Well, you know, in that hill country area with the sort of the way the rock sort of steps down, and then you've got these slow moving waterways through there. Yeah, God, it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. This is the government should be paying you to advertise Australia like that, mate. Um, and you know, again, these are these things, isn't it? It's like one of the things that we do with architectural tours that we do is we're going to be doing some in Australia and taking people to some landscape parts like this, and also showing them architecture, but then the land side of it as well, and getting them engaged in that, what the land has to offer, feeding them some of the best food they'll ever eat in their lives, and putting them around some other incredible people who are equally as passionate about it, and getting them into those environments is like, yeah, something that's really, really special, and inspiring them to see the world from these eyes and then take that world with them and create something in the world they're in.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's so good. One last question, which is going to be, what's next for Phillip Johnson?
I just see so many opportunities in public open space. From just, I think we need a flip of the way we look at landscapes. I think we could bring them indoors more. I think we could have shopping centres with creeks and waterways and waterfalls running off them. Collecting water off public open space in our urban environments, closing streets and cities, and actually creating more naturalistic, connecting to nature. Nature is so important for nature dosing, for our mental health, to kind of help heal our minds, to re-energize our minds from the pressure. It's my son is neurodiverse, and he being in nature is the best healing kind of thing for him to as a circuit breaker, to reset, to help him get through his day. And that's what I think. We need, these beautiful spaces, and design some awesome public open spaces. I want to celebrate water in an incredible way. I think people would need to be a lot more sustainable when they're designing a property, a large property, or urban environment, or city. I think with what's gone on over in LA is utterly devastating. We're not talking that's in a forest.
No. This is no forests around.
Yeah, so there's things in the future that we've got to be really planning in a really clever, in an innovative way. It's, the 30 years of myself kind of struggling too, I'll be honest. Like, this is not easy to do what I do. I go against a lot of my industry. A lot of Australians don't like using Australian plants. They just want to mimic the UK, or mimic a bit of Tuscany, or mimic a bit of wherever.
I don't know how many places, like filming a TV show, that I turn up to see an olive tree, and I love olive trees, but they're like the new little black dress or whatever it is, the new handbag, you know. It's how old an olive tree can you put in your courtyard? And I'm not anti that. I just go, what do we have in our own species that is of the space that could tell the same story, and or more of a story, you know? And I'm all for transporting people through touchstones, you know, like through touch points of, it might be a tree. The other day I went to a site and I was doing some land whispering on it, and I'd just been on the phone to you, or on Zoom to you, a few hours or days before, and there were some bottle trees on the site, and one wasn't doing quite as well as the other. And I said to the guy whose site it was, he said to me, you know, they need to landscape it. And I said, oh, well, I gave him your number, and introduced him there, and said, look, you've got a tree there that's probably not doing as well as it could do. You've got another tree over here that's doing fine. There's something shifted in that piece of environment. I've got no idea what I'm talking about, but I know that people who do. And then how do you create something from this environment? Because you've got a small acreage block, but it's got some ability to have some low-lying water on it. It's got all these different things. It really deserves something made of it, not just a big house stuck in the middle of it and it doing what it's doing. It's been developed previously at some point and bulldozed and all the rest. We get the best from it, and make the house and the landscape actually belong as parts together. Oh, look at that. The Fern Grotto.
This is a trip I did down the Franklin River, which is this most incredible World Heritage waterway, where it was a 10-day journey. We didn't see anyone.
Yeah.
We had a communal cup drinking the water as we went down this amazing space. It was energizing to another level.
Where is that?
The Tasmania bottom.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And then seeing these most incredible waterfalls. I talked a lot about waterfalls today.
I get why.
Seeing these amazing, like as you can see on my screen, this natural waterway creates a plant wall. Yes, we've built some of the tallest vertical gardens in the world too, but we need to build them in a much more sustainable way with collecting water and reusing water.
Yeah.
But this waterfall, you can see how that water actually creates a plant wall.
Yeah.
And that was the inspiration for, you said, some of my dreams. These are projects that I've designed, master planning. Unfortunately, hasn't gone anywhere at this point in time.
Yep, not yet.
The centre of Melbourne, it's called Federation Square.
Mm-hmm.
And on the back right, it's the NGV building, the National Gallery of Victoria, amazing collection of artwork. But the roof drains towards where the photo was taken. So it's the beautiful, perfect opportunity to celebrate water when it rains, to create these amazing waterfalls, 28-meter tall, dropping down through a series of cascades down to our waterways. And what I've then designed is floating public pools. So our partner Polyplan, they've designed a few public pools floating that are natural pools. Yep. And that's another big driver. You're saying my dreams is I want to create public pools around the world that are like swimming in this most amazing natural environment.
Yeah, but then also right in the middle of the city as well, or wherever.
1 kilometer from the main train station, you're swimming on the river, back on the river. And I will finish this picture. This is what I
love the vision that you have for doing this, and it's the selflessness of it, in the sense of there's plenty of self in it, but it's about like what the public can get to experience. I grew up in an environment that looks like this in New Zealand. Yeah. That was my backyard.
Which shaped and created the person you are. That beautiful environments. And not everyone has that opportunity to live in an environment like that. This is the thing. This is back to my conversations with Her Majesty, and also through COVID when I was trying to raise the funds for our public garden, is because not everyone has the opportunity to go to beautiful environments that requires traveling and a lot of cost. Why not invest in our urban planning, beautiful spaces for humans to interact with?
Yep. 100%.
This is a public pool I want to build that could be in the center of the city.
Yep. And I love it. I love it, man.
Experiences. So that's some of my dreams, Adrian. But just it's been awesome chatting today.
Oh, sensational. And I'm all for creating those environments. There's something you were saying before about your son being neurodivergent, and I've just had several conversations with different people around rammed earth structures. So I haven't dropped these podcasts yet. And with it, one of the questions that's come up is, it started with, I was talking with a lady, Andrea Knowles, and we were talking about equine residences. And I put you in touch with her. Amazing. And, like these beautiful equine residences, and Andrea's a global expert on it, much like you're a global expert on what you do. And with that, it went from that podcast, which is released, and then we went to one that isn't released yet. And I was talking to a lady, Mercedes, about rammed earth structures and another company, Firewall, and what they do with that. And I had this question, which was from it came into my mind while I was talking with Mercedes, was how do animals react when they're in rammed earth? Like, is there a difference? And anyway, from that, I I was like, this has got to be something that there'll be a reaction. Humans react in it. They're going to react in it. And then I also know how humans and animals react when they get into, say, like that garden environment that you've created. There's a difference in their behavior that shifts. Whether they get more natural, I don't know what it is. But then I've been listening to a podcast of Rick Rubin's, and in this particular podcast, there's a lot about non-speaking people, and then different levels of neurodivergency with that as well, and what happens, and the telepathic ability that they have, and where they gather and all the rest. I'm just looking up the name of the lady it's Kai Dickens, so KY Dickens is talking about it, and I went, in these environments, when we have our people who are neurodivergent or on the spectrum in different ways, how are they reacting differently? What are we able to do with architecture and the built structure that not only supports, nurtures, and yeah, like, I don't know what studies there are out there now. This is my latest rabbit hole to go down, but I want to understand it. And I'm talking to experts like yourself, and I go, what have you seen? What happens?
It's funny, we've got another project that we're designing at the moment, and they've got a child on the spectrum, and we're designing spaces. There's the gardens all around the house. Okay, he likes his little house space, but there's all these little spots for him to sit, look, and be in nature, different rooms, right to certain seats within the landscape to take a book and to be in amongst destinations. But their brief was to have that beauty around the house, and that's why they've got all these little kind of alcoves where we can bring garden in, bring a bit of water, a bit of beauty. And so he's got that surrounded him on a daily basis. So I think back to building material, sound is a big thing, absorbing sound. Having really cool interiors that you can actually roll around and sit on and move, and I'm wiggling around everywhere today.
Yeah.
And actually not just having static furniture in one spot, having areas where people can break out and actually, if it's a sunken fire pit, to be able to get the ottoman or to move around, to roll it, and
to not just be seated, to be on the floor, to be even in a chair that you can swing side to side. I mean, you're like me, sitting still's an issue.
And my chair's been restored too by my son.
Yeah, but that's it, isn't it? It's this movement, and then that I often, and I know very, very little about neurodivergency, so I'm not going to try and speak as if I have any real knowledge on it. I have a friend who has a store called the Ability Store, which his daughter is neurodivergent as well. And the Ability Store is, instead of being called the Disability Store, it's the Ability Store. Yep. And it has given me lots of insights into, the tactileness, the noise, the overwhelm and all these things. And I'm going, there's a story in here somewhere that makes some sense. I'd love to get the dots put together. And landscape, we know it's a part of it. It's by turning a blind eye to it. It's like, going, well, we know that noise isn't going to, these certain noises aren't going to damage our ears, but we'll still, we know it brings it together. We know that what it does for humans. And animals. So I'm putting the rock in the room, by the way. The rock will be in the room.
I'm waiting. You just got to get in before you build. We got to get it.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to wheel it in.
No. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Phil, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your energy, your passion, your bloody vision of what we can create and what can be created for inspiring other people to understand our ecosystems that we have and our ecosystems that we can build that support our bigger ecosystems.
No, absolutely love it today. Thank
Brilliant,
you,
mate.
love your work, and yeah, let's bring on the future. Let's connect people to this beautiful planet and help.
Let's do more and more and more, because this is the joy of the journey. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsey.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients and let's make your heart sing? Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.